I first noticed it on a Tuesday. I'd been working late in the garage, sorting through receipts for a custom shelving project, when I realized I couldn't remember where I'd put my drill. Not just misplaced, forgotten entirely. I found it 30 minutes later, inside the refrigerator, next to a half-eaten sandwich I didn't remember making. Stress, I told myself. Just stress. The fatigue followed. Deep, cellular exhaustion that no amount of sleep seemed to fix. I started waking up with headaches, eyes heavy, ears ringing. I snapped at a customer for asking about a delivery delay, something I never did. I forgot the alarm code at the shop one morning and triggered the police response. When I told Emily, she placed her hand on mine and said gently, "Maybe it's time to talk to someone." It wasn't judgment. It was concern, carefully measured. She'd said the same thing last year after my burnout, when I stepped away from engineering and opened the workshop. Back then, I was grateful. She'd taken over the day-to-day bills, called in prescriptions, picked up my medication without me asking. "Let me take some things off your plate," she'd said. Now she brought me my antidepressants with my coffee each morning. Same blue bottle, same smile. I thanked her and swallowed them without looking. I wanted to believe she was helping again, but something felt off. Not all at once. Like furniture shifted slightly in the night. Just enough to stub your toe and not know why. My thoughts felt sluggish. My short-term memory frayed at the edges. I found myself staring into space mid-sentence, unsure what I was about to say. I chalked it up to work stress, poor diet, maybe age. Emily never complained. She listened, nodded, offered small solutions. "You've just got a lot going on," she'd say. "Maybe your dosage needs adjusting." She promised to call the clinic for me. That night, as I brushed my teeth, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Pale, eyes sunken. I didn't recognize the man looking back at me. I opened the medicine cabinet. The bottle was there. Orange plastic, white cap. My name printed neatly on the label. Everything in order. Still, something wasn't right. I just didn't know what yet. Looking back, the shift didn't happen overnight. It was gradual, quiet. Emily and I used to share everything. Grocery lists, inside jokes, weekend projects we never finished. But after my burnout, something changed. At first, I thought it was kindness. She stepped in when I stepped back, took over the finances, handled our taxes, canceled social plans when I seemed too tired. "Don't worry about it," she'd say. "Just focus on getting better." At the time, I appreciated it. I needed space, and she gave it. But as the months passed, space turned into silence. Our friends stopped calling. She told them I was taking time to heal. Even my sister mentioned Emily had asked her not to pressure me with visits. I hadn't realized I needed to be protected from my own family. When I suggested inviting people over again, Emily hesitated. "You sure you're up for that?" she asked. "You've been so easily overwhelmed lately." I didn't argue. I just nodded. Maybe she was right. She'd started managing my schedule too. Doctor's appointments, oil changes, renewal notices. "You always forget these things," she said once, not unkindly. "Let me help." But it didn't feel like help anymore. It felt like delegation without consent. A few weeks after the fridge incident, I began writing things down. Not in my phone. She sometimes glanced at it when I left it unlocked. No, I bought a small black notebook and kept it under the seat in my truck. Just short entries. Missed call from client. Forgot to respond. Grocery list vanished after I swore I wrote it. Emily said I yelled in my sleep. No memory. little things, but they added up. I started taking pictures too. My workspace, the medication bottle, my phone screen after calls. Not because I was sure something was happening, but because part of me had started to feel unsure of everything. And I needed proof. Not for anyone else, but for myself. Emily hadn't done anything wrong, not directly. She was still loving, attentive, supportive in all the right ways, but she was also always there, guiding, correcting, reframing things I thought I remembered. I still trusted her, but I was starting not to trust my own mind. And that was the part that scared me most. It happened in the lumber aisle at Dawson's Hardware. One second I was comparing drill bits. The next I was holding onto the shelf to keep from collapsing. My vision narrowed, ears ringing like someone had struck a tuning fork inside my skull. Cold sweat pooled along the back of my neck. I stayed still, counted to 30, then to 60. When I could walk again, I left my cart and drove home in silence. Emily met me at the door, concerned but composed. "Are you okay?" she asked. I told her I'd gotten lightheaded, probably skipped lunch. She nodded, handed me a glass of water. "You've been off lately," she said softly. "Maybe you should up your dosage." That night, I took the bottle from the bathroom and sat at my workbench. I lined up 3 of the pills on a scrap of plywood and stared. Something about them seemed different, slightly rounder, less powdery. I couldn't remember if the originals were white or cream-colored, but these were off. Too smooth, too perfect. I logged into my pharmacy account. I had to reset the password. Emily handled the prescriptions now. I pulled up the refill history. My current antidepressant should have been sertraline 50 milligrams, oblong, light green, scored. What I held in my hand was round and chalk white, not sertraline. I didn't confront her. Instead, I opened an old cigar tin from my desk drawer and started quietly collecting a sample. Every morning, when she brought me my pill, I'd pretend to take it, then swap it out and drop the real one into the tin. I still had a few actual sertraline left from an old refill. I kept those too, for comparison. Over the next 2 weeks, the dizzy spells continued. So did the blank spaces. Whole conversations I had no memory of. Notes written in my handwriting I didn't remember writing. The kind of thing that makes you question yourself first. But the pill bottle in my cabinet was a lie. I knew that now. I wasn't sure what Emily had given me, but I was sure it wasn't what I was prescribed. And whatever it wasn't meant to help. "You've been acting different," Emily said one morning as she folded laundry. "Forgetful, moody." I didn't respond. She waited, then added, "I'm worried about you." It wasn't the first time she'd said it lately, or the second. She'd started dropping it into conversations more and more, like she was rehearsing a narrative, planting seeds. One evening, she stood in the doorway of my workshop while I fixed a broken cabinet hinge. "I found your notebook," she said. My hand froze mid-turn on the screwdriver. "What notebook?" "The one in your truck. Why are you writing things down like that? Dates, times. It's not healthy, Nathan." I set the tool down carefully. "Helps me stay organized." "It's paranoid," she said, her voice tightening. "You're obsessed with things that don't matter. You're starting to sound unstable." The word hung in the air like smoke. 2 days later, my sister called. "Emily's worried," she said. "She told me you've been confused lately." Said you accused her of switching your meds. I didn't accuse her of anything, I said quietly. I just asked a question. She says you're withdrawing from people, that you're scared all the time. She cried when she told me. Nathan, have you considered getting a second opinion? Like maybe this is more than just stress? I hung up shortly after that, thanked her for checking in. That night, I found Emily in the kitchen. She smiled when she saw me and touched my arm. Everything okay? I just nodded. But inside, something shifted. She wasn't reacting to my questions. She was building a case, shaping a version of me that looked unwell, dangerous even. She didn't need to fight me outright. She just needed to convince others I was losing my grip. It was subtle, strategic. The next week, 2 of our friends canceled dinner plans. One said their kid was sick. The other never replied. When I called to follow up, I got voicemail. Emily still brought me my pills every morning, still rubbed my back before bed, still smiled like everything was normal. But now I understood what was happening. She wasn't just trying to control me. She was trying to erase me. It started with tea. A quiet afternoon, gray light filtering through the kitchen windows. Emily placed a mug in front of me. Chamomile, she said. You've been on edge lately. This'll help. I took a sip, then another. Warm, slightly sweet. I didn't taste anything unusual. 20 minutes later, I was in the garden shed, staring at a pile of sandpaper I couldn't remember bringing in. My hands were shaking. My heart thundered in my ears. I walked in circles, unsure if I was fixing something or looking for something or just trying to stay upright. Then the panic hit. It came fast, an unmoored, drowning sensation. My vision narrowed to a pinhole. My legs buckled. I fell against the workbench, knocking over a can of screws that scattered like rain. I don't remember what happened next. When I came to, it was evening. I was in bed, still wearing my jeans, sawdust on my sleeves. The bedroom lights were off. The window was open. A soft breeze touched my face. Emily sat in the chair across the room, phone in her lap, eyes puffy. You scared me, she said. I tried to speak, but my mouth felt dry. My thoughts were scattered like the screws on the shed floor. What happened? You were yelling, she said quietly. Talking to someone who wasn't there. You collapsed. I got you into bed. She sounded hurt, tender. We need to call someone, she continued. A specialist, just to talk. This isn't normal. I closed my eyes, not because I was tired, but because I needed to shut out her voice, her face, the impossible calm with which she delivered her script. I'm fine, I said. She didn't argue, just reached out, touched my hand gently. I didn't take the tea again after that, and I didn't drink anything she handed me that I hadn't poured myself. Whatever she was doing, it was working. But I wasn't ready to let go of the truth. Not yet. The first sign was silence. Texts left unread, calls that went to voicemail. People I'd known for years suddenly had full schedules and vague apologies. Things are just hectic right now, my friend Cal said. He'd been the best man at our wedding. Even my business partner Dan started acting different. We ran the custom wood shop together. 5 years of steady work, mutual trust. One morning he showed up late and didn't meet my eyes. You okay? He asked as we unloaded lumber. Yeah, why? He hesitated. Just, Emily called last week. Said you'd been having a tough time. Told me to watch out for you. said you weren't sleeping, that you might need some space. The way he said it, gentle, cautious, made me feel like I'd already been labeled. She's worried about you, he added. I didn't answer, just kept stacking the boards. At home, Emily was all softness and care. I'm just trying to protect you, she'd say. People are asking questions. I don't want them to get the wrong idea. But they weren't getting the wrong idea. They were getting her idea. My sister called again. Nate, I talked to Emily. She said you've been forgetting things, losing time. Is that true? I didn't know how to answer, because the truth was, yes, I had lost time. I had forgotten things. But only since I started taking pills she handed me. Only since she started brewing the tea. Only since she took over every moving part of my life. She says she found knives under your bed, my sister whispered, like she was afraid of saying it out loud. I almost laughed. I hadn't sharpened a blade in weeks. That night, I stood in the kitchen staring at Emily's phone while she slept in the next room. It was password protected, of course. New lock screen, new PIN. She was 10 steps ahead of me, and the version of me she was selling to everyone else? Unstable, dangerous, paranoid. I wasn't just being isolated. I was being rewritten. They came on a Thursday night. 2 people in plain clothes, badges clipped to their belts, and 1 uniformed officer standing behind them like punctuation. I was in the living room sanding down a drawer when Emily opened the front door and let them in. Nathan Briggs? The man asked. His tone was neutral, rehearsed. We're here for a wellness check. Emily hovered behind them, arms crossed tightly, not speaking. The woman beside him explained they were from the county's behavioral health unit. Your wife filed a petition citing increased confusion, paranoia, and an incident involving self-harm. I blinked. What incident? She glanced at her clipboard. 3 days ago. She said you locked yourself in the shed. You were yelling. She was concerned for your safety. I had a dizzy spell, I said calmly. I rested. That's it. The male officer stepped closer. We're going to need you to come with us, sir. For what? The woman offered a half apology. A temporary hold. Just 72 hours for evaluation. Emily stepped forward. They just want to help, she said, voice trembling in just the right way. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. I looked at her and saw it clearly for the first time. Not fear, not sadness, control. I didn't fight, didn't raise my voice, just stood, dusted off my hands, and followed them out. The ride was quiet. No cuffs, no sirens, just the low hum of tires on pavement and the tightening knot in my chest. At intake, they logged my name, asked questions. I answered everything. Calm. Clear. The nurse nodded approvingly. You're not what we usually get in here. I gave a small shrug. I'm not supposed to be. They took my phone, my wallet, even my shoelaces. I was led to a small room with scuffed walls and a bed bolted to the floor. I sat down and stared at my hands. Emily had built the case so well, the system agreed. And now, I was officially unstable, at least on paper. Time passed differently inside. No clocks, no phones, just the rhythm of staff check-ins, meals served on plastic trays, and the low murmur of other patients drifting through the corridor like static. I kept to myself, spoke when spoken to, took notes in my head, faces, names, patterns, When the nurses handed me medication, I asked what it was. They told me. I pretended to take it, then let it dissolve under my tongue. Bitter. Wrong. On the second day, I met Nurse Givens, mid-50s, glasses on a chain, sharp eyes behind a tired smile. "You're not like the rest," she said as she checked my vitals. "What put you here?" "My wife said I was unstable." "Are you?" "No." She paused, then leaned in slightly. "People lie," she said, voice low. "Paper doesn't. Request everything, make copies, start a trail." That night, I asked to see my file. Intake forms, medication logs, incident reports. I wrote down the times, names, notes. I asked questions no one expected. By day 3, I had memorized the name of every staff member I'd interacted with. I knew which cameras were real and which were props. I marked how often they documented behavior and what language they used. Compliant. Passive. Flat affect. I knew what they were building, so I started writing again. Not just in my head, but on paper, borrowed from the nurse's station. I wrote everything: Emily's gradual control, the medication switch, the isolation, the tea. I dated every page, signed them. "Paper doesn't lie," Nurse Givens repeated when I handed her the first copy. "Smart man." Before discharge, a doctor with a clipboard ran through his checklist. "You're stable," he said. "Probably just stress, but we recommend outpatient support." "Of course," I said. They handed me a plastic bag with my things, my wallet, my laces, my silence. Outside, the air felt different, cooler, clearer. I didn't call Emily. I didn't go home. Instead, I found a motel off Route 6, paid cash, and locked the door behind me. It wasn't over, but I was done playing defense. I went to the pharmacy the morning after I got out. Same place I'd used for years. Familiar faces, fluorescent lights. A bell that chimed too loud when the door opened. I waited in line, hands in my pockets, heart steady. When it was my turn, I asked to speak with the pharmacist on duty. A man in his early 30s, clean-shaven, polite, no recognition in his eyes. "I need to verify something," I said, voice level. "You filled a prescription for me a few months ago. Sertraline, 50 milligrams. Can you tell me what it should look like?" He checked his screen. Light green, oblong, scored in the middle. Generic brand, standard stuff. "Want me to print the specs?" "No need." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small Ziploc bag. Inside were 3 of the white pills I'd been taking, the ones Emily gave me each morning. The pharmacist frowned. "These aren't ours." "You're sure?" He turned one over in his gloved hand. "Positive. We've never stocked this manufacturer. And this doesn't match your file." I thanked him and left before he could ask more questions. Back at the motel, I opened the cigar tin and carefully separated out 10 of the mystery pills. I packaged them with gloves, sealed the envelope, and addressed it to a private toxicology lab I'd used during my engineering days, when testing material integrity was part of my job. I didn't put my name on the form, just the barcode number they assigned me online. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of what I'd find, because I already knew. And now I needed proof. Emily had always been the organized one. Passwords, appointments, insurance claims, she kept everything in a spreadsheet, color-coded, labeled, backed up. I used to admire that about her. Now it just meant I had a trail to follow, I used an old laptop she didn't know I'd kept, logged into our shared health portal using a password I remembered from 2 years ago. It still worked. The inbox was full. First thing I saw was a message she'd sent to my therapist. Nathan's symptoms have escalated. He's losing touch with reality. The timestamp matched the day she brought me tea. I kept reading. She had canceled 3 appointments I never knew about. 1 with a psychiatrist, 2 with a neurologist, all requested in my name. In the notes, she wrote, "Patient no longer wants treatment, condition improving." She also modified entries in my medication log, refilled dates that didn't match what the pharmacy told me, dosages adjusted without explanation. It was all there: edits, access times, digital fingerprints. Then I saw the name, Marcus. The messages weren't medical. They were personal, flirtatious, intimate. Photos exchanged. Late night thinking about you texts. He wasn't just a friend. He wasn't a therapist. He was part of her second life, the one she built while dismantling mine. I downloaded everything, every message, every change, every forged update, saved to a flash drive, copied to cloud storage, printed hard copies and sealed them in an envelope just in case. Emily had controlled the narrative for months, but data has no bias, and numbers don't lie. Only people do. The email came 3 days later. Subject line, toxicology results. Batch number 094-A confidential. I opened it alone, at the small table in my motel room, with a legal pad beside me and my pen already uncapped. The results were clear. Each of the pills I'd sent in had traces of alprazolam, a benzodiazepine used for anxiety and panic disorders, and propranolol, a beta blocker that dulls physical responses to stress. In combination, they didn't cure anything. They mimicked dysfunction, made you tired, foggy, emotionally flat, slowed your heart, dulled your memory, blurred the edges of reality. Taken daily, they could easily simulate the symptoms of depression, or worse. Neither drug had ever been prescribed to me. The report included a breakdown of dosage estimates based on sample weight. I cross-referenced it against my documented symptoms. Everything lined up. Dizzy spells, emotional flattening, sleep disturbances, confusion, all of it. She hadn't tried to hurt me outright. She'd tried to deconstruct me. I called the pharmacy again, this time asking about refill authorizations. The manager was more cautious, said I'd need a formal request. But off the record, he confirmed that several refills had been phoned in under my name, except the voice on the line didn't match my records. "We assumed it was your wife," he said. "She handles most of your stuff, right?" She had phoned in the fake prescriptions, swapped out the pills, and used her access to my portal to erase the evidence. Until now. I printed the lab results, highlighted the chemical names, paperclipped it to the forged refill history, and a copy of my original prescription label. The next morning, I sent Emily a text. "Dinner tonight? Just the 2 of us. Somewhere quiet." She replied in under a minute. "Of course." We met at a small Italian place on the edge of town. Candlelight, linen napkins, soft music, her choice. The kind of setting that suggested intimacy, forgiveness, maybe even hope. She looked beautiful, calm, like someone who believed she was still holding the pen. I didn't order anything, just sipped water and waited until the bread arrived. "I've missed you," she said, voice soft. "Things got difficult, I know." I reached into my coat and placed a single manila folder on the table. Emily glanced at it, didn't touch it. What's this? Just some things I found. She opened it. The lab results sat on top, highlighted in yellow. Underneath, copies of the refill activity logs, portal access timestamps, messages to Marcus. She didn't speak at first, just flipped through slowly, page by page. When she got to the prescriptions, her hand stopped. "These aren't mine," she said. "No, they're mine," I replied. "At least they were supposed to be." She set the folder down. The mask slipped for just a second. Then came the tears. "I was trying to help you," she said, voice cracking. "You were spiraling. You didn't see it, but I did. You weren't sleeping. You were angry. I just wanted to calm you down. You drugged me." Her lip quivered. It was never dangerous. I looked everything up. It was just enough to take the edge off, to keep you safe, to make things manageable. "Whose version of safe?" I asked. She didn't answer. "You called me unstable," I said, "while feeding me pills I didn't need. You canceled my appointments. You told people I was losing it. Then you made sure I would." She tried again. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. You filed a false medical report. You got me committed." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but I didn't feel sorry. I felt clear. Emily reached across the table, hand trembling. "We can fix this." I pulled my hand back. "I'm not here to fix anything," I said. "I'm here to confirm what I already know." Then I stood, folded the folder shut, and left it on the table. Let her sit with the truth. Alone. I found the attorney on a Thursday morning, an unmarked office a few blocks from the motel. His name was Carter, mid-50s, silver hair, no-nonsense eyes behind wire frames. I laid out the folder on his desk. Lab results, pharmacy logs, portal downloads, even the paperwork from my psychiatric hold. He didn't flinch, just nodded. "You have every right to file," he said. "And we'll do it aggressively." By the end of the week, the divorce petition was filed. Count 1, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Count 2, defamation of character. Count 3, fraud by tampering with medication. Each allegation supported by exhibits, signed, notarized, photocopied. Emily served with papers by certified mail. She hired her own counsel, but her response was tepid. Denials shadowed by admissions of helpful intentions. Her answers dissolved under scrutiny. Carter deposed my neighbors. None recalled erratic behavior before the hold. He subpoenaed the health unit's records, revealing her petition contained no objective evidence beyond her own affidavit. Then came the fallout. Her affair with Marcus emerged in the discovery process. Suddenly, the sympathetic wife narrative collapsed. Friends unfriended her on social media. The local PTA board rescinded her volunteer privileges. A mutual acquaintance confronted her at the school pickup line, citing pharmacy logs I'd provided. She tried to explain, voice tight, tears unconvincing. No one listened. Meanwhile, I updated my workshop's voicemail greeting to reflect my availability, not my problems. Clients returned. Dan, my business partner, stopped by unannounced. He shook my hand, eyes red. "I'm sorry," he said. "I believed her version. I'll make it right." My sister flew in next. She came to my motel room with apologies and hugs. We sat on the bed for hours. She cried when I showed her Emily's messages, how she lied about my memory lapses to family, friends, even my own doctor. "I'm so sorry," my sister whispered. "I never should have doubted you." By the time the judge signed the temporary orders, Emily was isolated. Her motion for exclusive use of our home was denied. Her request for spousal support evaporated when the affair and medication tampering became public record. Her credibility was gone. And in the quiet after the storm, I realized how precise justice could be when backed by facts and paperwork. My name cleared felt like stepping into daylight after months underground. The court hearing was brief. The judge reviewed the lab report, the pharmacy testimony, the portal logs. He looked at Emily's attorney and said, "There's no genuine dispute here. I'm granting the restraining order and the divorce on grounds of fraud, defamation, and mental cruelty." His gavel fell like a verdict not just of law, but of truth. Back at the shop, Dan pinned a note on the bulletin board. "To our loyal customers, Mr. Briggs is back in business." It wasn't much, but it meant the world. My sister organized a small celebration, dinner at her place with just family. She toasted me. To the brother who trusted his instincts and didn't let anyone rewrite his story. I accepted the glass in silence, heart steady, eyes clear. Carter filed the civil suit for defamation and psychological abuse. The process was already underway when I learned Emily had left town with Marcus. No forwarding address. A default judgment loomed. In the days that followed, I received a notice. Emily's restraining order had been issued. She was legally barred from contacting me, my family, and even my business. Her new partner, Marcus, disappeared from social media overnight. Her friends no longer returned her calls. I drove past our old house once, windows dark, lawn overgrown. No sign of her life there. It felt fitting. The hardest part was the void she left behind, the silence where her voice, her presence used to be. But I filled it with workshop machines, with sawdust and the steady rhythm of creation. I rebuilt shelves and cabinets, and in the process, rebuilt myself. Late one afternoon, I found a brief email from the pharmacy manager. My lab-tested pills had been forwarded to the State Board of Pharmacy. They were opening an investigation. It was official now. A final confirmation that the truth, quiet, factual, unassailable, had prevailed. I filed the envelope of evidence in the cabinet under my desk. I knew I'd never need it again. Not because the fight was over, but because I'd already won the one that mattered most, reclaiming my mind, my reputation, and my life. 1 year later, the silence doesn't scare me anymore. I live in a second-floor walk-up on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, and a balcony that catches the morning light. My shop is smaller now, by choice. Fewer clients, but ones I trust. No more walk-ins, no more favors for friends of friends. Just honest work, done on my terms. I go to therapy once a week, not because I'm broken, because I value clarity. My therapist doesn't ask leading questions. She listens, occasionally nods, and lets me find the language myself. Some weeks I barely speak. Others, I tell her everything. The pacing is mine. In the closet, behind an old lockbox, are 3 folders. The first holds the lab report, chemical breakdowns, dosage charts, timestamps. The second contains pharmacy records and refill logs. The third, my commitment paperwork, a stack of legal forms that once said I was a threat to myself. I keep them not as a warning, but as a reminder. People lie. Paper doesn't. Emily hasn't contacted me, not directly. There were whispers that she moved out of state, changed jobs. Marcus vanished entirely. I don't ask around. I don't care. That part of my life ended with a gavel, a signature, and a door that closed behind me for good. Some nights, I still think about the tea, the pills, the moments when I questioned my own memory, doubted my sanity. It doesn't haunt me, but it shaped me. Survival changes how you read a room, how you trust silence, how you carry your own voice. Tonight, I sit at my desk, laptop open. One tab left. A shared photo album, years of birthdays, road trips, quiet Sunday mornings. I click through the images slowly, not to relive them, but to release them. Then, without hesitation, I click Delete Album. The screen flickers, the gallery disappears. I close the laptop and stand. Outside, the air is cool, the city still. I step onto the balcony, lean against the railing, and breathe in deep. I'm not angry. I'm not broken. I'm free. This story was brutal, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.